imagine it, we can look at it, we can take risks.
Yeah.
And at the same time, our spaces, our smaller spaces, like the Crane on the Lower East Side, or Dixon Place, or even a more well-known place like La Mama, or the Gala Theater in Washington, D.C., or small theaters in Texas or California or Seattle, they're all imperiled.
Yeah.
And so, I've been taking dance classes online from Gibney. Gibney is a wonderful dance center in New York City. They have two studios. They have two studio spaces, and there's the Agnes Fair's Performing Arts Center. And it's a wonderful space. They have so many different things that they can do there. They have a gallery space for visual arts and for multimedia art. And the space is, no one can be there right now. No one can work there. It's just these empty shells sitting around New York everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking because there are all these actors and dancers who are ready to work, whose techniques are suffering because they have to practice on linoleum in their parents' kitchen because they had to go home.
Yeah, totally.
It's impressive what we've been able to do, and it would be so much more impressive if we were given the resources to survive. So that later we could thrive.
Yeah,
and so, it's wonderfully optimistic to think that we'll all be back someday, but when we come back, it's all going to look so different, and there's no way to know what it's going to be like. And I'm a bit of a cynic about it because the things that I've already experienced, and since the pandemic hit, I feel like I've almost been nonstop working on theater and dance, and I feel like I've grown as an artist and I've made a lot of things, but that's very much a privilege I've been handed, and it's been really hard to confront a lot of the privileges I've been handed while knowing that I'm struggling. There are people who, flip burgers for a living, vegan or not. There are people who, drive giant trucks around carting things all over the country still. There are hospital workers, not just doctors and nurses, but the janitors and the techs and all these people who make things run. The administrative people in any office in the world can all do their work online, and they have, oh my God. And to think that they couldn't stop working despite this and risking infection every day. I want theater to come back, but I don't want it to come back at the expense of all the people who run theaters to get sick, at the expense of dancers and performers and directors and writers and musicians and costume designers and gaffers and stage hands and stage managers.
Yeah.
I don't want any of us to get sick. I don't want any of this to happen again.
Yeah.
In order for that to happen, I want everything to come back, but I don't want it to come back without recognizing those limitations that we have to put in place now to protect people.
Yeah.
And certainly don't want to come back and have these big Broadway productions go up again, right? Who happen? We're going to have these big commercial productions come back. There's still going to be rampant implicit racism. There's still going to be ableism. There's still going to be transphobia and homophobia, which we now call heterosexism, where we prioritize the heterosexual cisgender community in society. That's called heterosexism. We don't say transphobia or homophobia anymore. Well, some people.
Okay.
This is new. I just learned this.
I just want to say, I don't know. Really?
Wild.
Okay.
How do we keep telling the stories that are getting told now over Zoom?
Yeah.
How do we keep sharing the important things that have been happening in the world and return to previous patterns?
Yeah.
That's what people want to do. They want to go back to normal. Well, normal sucked for everyone.
Well, I mean, and normal wasn't normal, that's the thing. Like normal was abnormal. So let's not go back there. Let's try to evolve out of this shit. But I do think, but even before Corona, like when I was still like you actively working in the performance arts, I think the performing arts were always suffering first. Like, if any money was cut from the government, it was always, let's just, let's cut it from the cultural sector because we don't care about them, So when actually, it's so funny because we're in a hard lockdown again here, and so the government is saying non-essential shops or non-essential businesses are gonna close. And I'm like, I think yoga and theaters and hairdressers, bless my hairdresser, Katja, are very essential, you know what I mean? But it's just, I know what he means with non-essential. But for me, you like theater or dance or just hearing you talk about your work or reading your blog, you know, it makes me happy because I can close my eyes and I can imagine that I'm in that theater with you, you know, and because I know what it smells like, what it feels like, what it, you know, everything about. Like I lived for the theater for a long time and I miss it a lot because it's just such an amazing place to be. And so I think people underestimate how important this is, you know, also to elevate people and, you know, lift their spirits up.
I think people also misunderstand the scale. You know, we talk about a small business like a hair salon. You know, it's not just someone holding a pair of scissors and, you know, a bowl of dye or bleach. It's people who run the books. It's people who sweep up after. It's people who, the landlord who takes care of the building if the salon is just renting.
Yeah.
You know, all of these people need to be fairly compensated and protected by the government. That's what the government's for. You know, it's here to step in when we are low on resources and when we can't produce for ourselves. We have to work for each other.
And, you
know, when we look at a theater production, there's a ton of admin work that that we all do. Like the founder of my company, Ashley Edelman, she wrote Displaced. She did all the original interviews with the original family members. She compiled and transcribed it all. She wrote several scripts, hired actors, produced the work, found funding for it, was able to secure spaces over the times that we have performed live, hired me, and then started having conversations with me where I stepped in and was like, okay, well, we could do this, we could add that. And every time we made an artistic decision, it took an administrative conversation to have. And that administrative conversation is compensated.
Yeah.
Because it's work. So there's just, and you know, the notion of costume design, you know, for one of the solos in the work that I'm producing, that I'm choreographing, that I'm directing, that I'm, you know, whatever, all the things that I'm doing, just for one costume, I spent 3 days researching different dress patterns and talking to a costume designer colleague friend. And I spent 2 days wandering around New York City, getting samples of fabric, looking at all the different shops, talking to the employees to see and get quotes from them about what it would be like to have this costume produced. Hundreds of dollars for a dress, by the way. Then go into a place like Buffalo Exchange, find something that's similar enough that I can work with, that isn't at all what I want, but is it close enough that I can at least rehearse with it? And that was 5 days of work. Long days of work for one.
And people don't know. People come to see the show and they get entertained. They have no idea, you know, like the months and months and months of work that are going into this, and the many people who run it, and powerhouses like yourself and Ashley.
It's like I just finished watching all 3 extended edition versions of Lord of the Rings. So the actors filmed all 3 movies at the same time. And so like the first day of shooting was like one of the last scenes that you see.
It's crazy, right? Yeah.
And one of the last days of shooting was like one of the last scenes that you see in the film. But you know, it was everything was done out of order. And in total, to put together those films took 7 years of production. Years. Tens of thousands of costumes and sets and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in generating all of the things that people need. The computers, like to build extra rooms and buildings just to house the computers to render images. Like there's a level of scale that goes into making a show. And all people need to do is open their computer, click a few buttons, and hit play. Enjoy a story.
And what is, so when you look at, because we're close to wrapping this up, Sam, thank you so much for all your wonderful knowledge, and it's been so nice to you know, to listen to your story, as we were just saying about stories. But what would your, if you know, just forget about freaking Corona for a minute, like what is your future vision for performance and you dance performance or, just performance in general? Like, what is your hope for the future in the world?
So he has already staked claims in a few different countries that we want to travel to. There's a festival in Italy that we want to go to premiere some work. My work might go there. There's some research for another show that's in the works for an immersive theater project called The Underground Astronauts about a scientific expedition that's been ongoing in South America, South Africa. Mm-hmm. There's a festival in Edinburgh in Scotland that we want to go to. And there are all places across the US that we already have connections to that we want to go to.
Yeah. So you're just waiting for it to be.
We're just waiting for things to be open.
Yeah.
And then personally, my goal has always been to be a dance professor. I've wanted to be that and to do that since high school. I think it was something that was kind of unrealized. I love education. I love the structure of it. It's good for my mental health. And I love working with other people and talking to them and investing in ideas about dance and theater and what it could be. So I'm in the process right now of going back to school for 2 more college degrees. I already have 2. And I am going to enter hopefully into a physical therapy program.
Nice.
To become a physical therapist, to expand my physical practice. And
and then with your yoga and your dance background, you have so much. You already have such a perfect mix of what that is.
I'm trying to constantly grow, and so there's lots of different plans and lots of different places for my attention to go. So. It's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm working toward it happening. It's all happening, and it's all going to happen all at the same time. And I'm probably going to lose my mind, and it's totally fine.
And would you say though that you enjoy teaching dance more than dancing?
They are inextricably linked. The more I learn about my dancing, the more I want to tell others, and I want to teach other people so they can experience theirs.
Yeah.
But in order to teach other people about their dancing, I have to do my dancing.
It's exactly with yoga, right? Isn't it? It's the same with me. The more I practice, the more I want to teach, and the more focused I am in my own practice, the more focus I have when I'm teaching, and the more excited I am about teaching. Yeah, it's beautiful. Sam, I want to thank you so much. I definitely think you've inspired many by chatting, and all listeners, I'll definitely put the link into the blog post and also to Sam's Instagram, where you can find all about Sam's work and stuff. I would say, Sam. So Sam, we're recording this just before Christmas and New Year. So I wish you a beautiful 21. Fuck 2020 is my is my motto. What's the motto with you? Seriously.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Fucking funny.
That's what I'm thinking. And but I looked up 21 is actually also, even the number stands for change and completely different. So I'm like, 21. Let's bring it on. And I hope to see you in that beautiful room that I'm looking at right now. And I would love so much love for you and so much respect for you, and I'll always be in your corner no matter what. So
Thank you.
So much love. So everybody listening, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. And check out all about Sam's work and everything in the notes. And you know the drill. Be good to yourself. Be good to others, especially the animals. Bye.